And we are live. Starting to forget how to do this. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock. It is Monday, May 12th. I am Josh Engelman. That is Greg Ehrenberg. We are here to break down a two-game NBA slate. Celtics, favorites in New York. Wolves, favorites in Golden State. And we got to talk about whatever the hell Steve Kerr will do today. But first, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter and buckle up. We've got the NBA draft lottery later tonight. Greg, we'll be back. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, and we do have it playing over in playback as well because it supports the NBA draft. So if you guys do want to check out playback while we're on here, you can listen to us talk while watching some of the NBA draft lottery, which I guess there's like the pregame NBA draft lottery going on right now. I know it's starting at 7. I don't know what that means starting at 7. Do they start pulling ping pong balls at 7? Who the hell knows? But either way, we're going to have it on in playback. Josh and I are going to be definitely reacting to some of it because Cooper Flagg, #1 overall pick, that could change the destiny of an NBA franchise. There could be bad teams that start to look better. There could also be an already pretty decent team that has a bright future that all of a sudden looks like they are headed for greatness, whether that's the San Antonio Spurs, the Houston Rockets. You just don't know what could have. The 76ers, they could end up winning the lottery, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, look what we got over here in Philly. So there's a lot of really interesting things that could happen with the lottery.
I'm really pumped for it. Unfortunately, I expect Cooper Flagg to go to a team that sucks. That he doesn't want to be on. I called the Hornets on my tweet because that's like the worst place you could possibly go. Although him and LaMelo would obviously be like really fun. Brandon Miller there too. Like they've got some young pieces, but Charlotte's just a place where careers generally go to die. Anything but Dallas. It's the only team I like 1 billion% don't want to win it. They don't deserve nice things right now until they get rid of Nico.
That's fair. Yeah, it would be anti-karma if the Dallas Mavericks ended up winning. With that said, it would be it's certainly not an outcome that I want to see just because of rooting interest, but you get Kyrie back healthy. It's a fun team though. Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, Cooper Flagg. So it's not like from the basketball standpoint, I wouldn't hate it.
No, from a basketball standpoint, it's great. I just don't want to reward them in any way from a basketball standpoint. They already have they had nice things and they didn't know what to do. So they don't deserve nice things anymore.
I agree.
It wasn't Nico, it was the owners. No.
Yeah, I don't. There's like a lot of odd conspiracy theories, but so like there's this idea that like Nico is super competent and it's like the owners forced him to do stuff. Do you guys know what happened when he worked at Under Armour? Like the whole Under Armour and Nike situation. I guess it was a Nike he worked at. He did a presentation to Steph Curry. He called him Seth Curry. He accidentally gave him Kevin Durant's presentation. Like they had Steph Curry primed to go sign with Nike for his next shoe deal, and he fucked up the entire thing and drove Steph Curry over to Under Armour. So like he's got a history before he was an NBA general manager being pretty incompetent. I very highly doubt it was management who was like, you know what you need to do? Go trade Quentin Grimes for hurt Caleb Martin right now. Like he's made a lot of really poor moves that I don't really think it's reasonable to think that ownership forced him to do it.
I find it hard to believe that ownership would want to lower the value of their franchise by trading Luka Doncic. Because let's be very clear here. They lost $400 million of franchise value by simply not having the asset of Luka Doncic in your building. That's no one would. If that's true, they're even more incompetent than you could ever imagine. But no, you wouldn't. That's such a no. I can't imagine they care. They're not in the basketball space. They're in the asset space. That's a bad asset play if that's the case.
Yeah.
So dumb.
We'll see. We'll see what happens with the ping pong balls tonight.
We will, and I cannot wait. But today, we get to talk about my Celtics. I don't know. Wolves, Warriors. Let's start on the Boston side. Don't think there's a ton to talk about here at this point. We got the news right before this started that Sam Hauser is still out. That should make most of this pretty easy. 45% ownership coming into Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. 30 to Derek White, 20 to Horford and Holiday, 10 to 15 on Pritchard and Porzingis. There are things on Boston that I find fascinating today. And then there are some things where it's just like, I don't know. I guess one of those guys end up in there. What do you want to do with Brown and Tatum? Because we have them both north of 40% optimal on the DraftKings side. They're the two highest owned dudes from Boston. And you kind of get like a really interesting path depending on if you're going to both one or neither. Because like if you're an Anthony Edwards guy today, he's going to pair pretty nicely with Jaylen Brown at that point at the discount. If you're not an Ant guy, then you're probably going to end up with Tatum. Like you're moving those two guys around since those two are the two pay up options for today. Tatum at 9,700, Ant at 9,500. Then you got $1,000 gap to the best guy on the slate today for me, which is Jimmy Butler. How are you balancing the two stars from Boston?
Yeah. So one thing I'm noticing, this is the most balanced my lineups have been on any slate this year, which is kind of by default because no players are priced over 10K. So like no SGA, no Jokic or anything like that. Jason Tatum's been priced down a little bit. With that said, though, I am not getting to a ton of Tatum or Edwards. My lineups are very much being built in the mid-range, and I am preferring to get to Jaylen Brown over Jason Tatum, not because I expect him to score more fantasy points or anything like that. It's just Jason Tatum is a little bit underpriced. To me, Jaylen Brown is very underpriced at $7,200. So Jaylen Brown, he's going to be popular. We've got both him and Tatum project for 43% ownership, but without any real value plays, I feel great about, especially because it's so hard to trust anything from the Warriors, which we'll talk about a little bit. Like there could be a value guy who goes off for Golden State, but it might not even matter all that much because some of the times where there's been a value guy who's gone off, like Trace Jackson Davis, if I remember correctly, the day that he went off for the Warriors, where he was the best value play on the slate, what was that, like Friday night or something? He was 0% owned in the main. So like it didn't even really matter all that much. Didn't matter at all because nobody had rostered him. Like even in Showdown, I think he was 1% owned. There was like less than that. There was like 3 lineups in the entire contest that played him for a 1-game slate. So I don't feel great about anything cheap for the entire slate. And that's something that really drives me even more towards Jaylen Brown over Jason Tatum.
So Jaylen Brown over Jason Tatum is the way that I want this to be going for myself. I like the price. I like the positionality. It seems easier to get to, affords me more salary to get to some different guys. Wouldn't be surprised at all to watch Jaylen Brown go crazy in this game. I've got Tatum neutral and I've got half the field of Jaylen Brown. So what I want is not working out in the same way of what I'm getting at this point. We'll see what that ends up looking like over the next 50 minutes. But for right now, it appears that I am more of a Tatum guy than an Ant guy. I'm about half the field on Ant. So it looks like the salary is going to get spent to Tatum. I'm fine with it. You know, he's going to play massive minutes barring any sort of injury. If the game is close, he's definitely going to be playing massive minutes barring injury. And if it's not close, I'm hoping that he has a little bit to do with it. But I do like Jaylen Brown more than Jason Tatum. It just doesn't come out in my exposures, which is a really unhelpful message for me to give out to the people.
Yeah. So I'm different for today. Just went over some of my exposures there, but for Boston, outside of Brown and Tatum, there's nobody who really shows up prominently for me. The guy I get the next most exposure to is Derek White. I think there's a really interesting talking point to be had on Kristaps Porzingis because he's been priced all the way down to $4,800 now. And I'm tempted to give him an ROI boost and take shots on him. This is where some of the spots where I found my most success in the playoffs is trying to find some of these guys who like the perception is there's no way they're going to play a healthy amount of minutes. Like Darius Garland yesterday, I played 40-something% of Darius Garland. He ended up being the top play on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And it was a really shitty low scoring slate yesterday where Garland definitely helped me turn a profit. I do wonder if you get like 20 minutes out of Porzingis off the bench at $4,800, like is there a chance he ends up being somebody who could matter? Because he's sub 10% owned. He's so cheap at this point. We have gotten some reports he's starting to feel a little bit better. I don't have him in lineups right now, but I'm toying with it.
I have 1%, but you and I are on the exact same page here. It's weird to see him with a $4,800 salary. And when push comes to shove, what we're really worried about here is something that we will never know before the game starts, which is, does he just feel good today? Because that's all it is. Like, I have no idea how this guy's waking up and feeling every day. I don't know how he's feeling once he starts doing things. Are some days great and some days awful? Is like there no rhyme or reason to it? Because if that's the case and he's 4,800 and he steps into this one and just feels good, what if he plays 24 minutes and it's just like a pretty decent approximation of Kristaps Porzingis? 4,800 is way too cheap for this dude. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I just don't know what to do. And then I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, what if it's not him? Because I've liked the way that Luke Cornett has played so far in this series. He's 3,403% owned. If Al Horford's in foul trouble and Porzingis is still death, is Cornett just the guy at that point at an even cheaper salary? I find the bench of Boston guys more interesting than I do the starters.
Yeah, it's I mean, I wouldn't say more interesting in terms of exposure, but more interesting in terms of talking points. Because like, what are we going to really talk about when it comes to like Derek White or Drew Holiday? They're just reasonable. They're priced fairly. Anyone can make their shots and have a pretty good game. But there's so many things that could potentially happen with Porzingis. Not to mention as well, look at the last 3 games for Porzingis. So he starts game 1 of the series, but has to leave early. He only ends up playing 13 minutes in that game. Then we find out, hey, he's dealing with this illness. He's going to be playing restricted minutes. So he only plays 14 minutes in game 2. Then he plays 19 minutes last game. And he also dealt with some foul trouble. He picked up 5 personal fouls. So like you said, a lot of this just comes down to how well is he feeling. But there is something to be said for his minutes trending up in each of the last 3 games.
Yeah, agreed. Did you ever expect to see his salary be 4,800?
No, not at all. I should add to this as well. He's $5,700 on FanDuel. I don't think that's a playable price point. It's more DraftKings where he's interesting.
Do you have any Cornett thoughts?
I don't. One thing I do find, this isn't the end all be all. It's just something I look at a lot for my betting process now. So I think it's interesting information. For what it's worth, right before the show started, there was a lot of orders being placed on NoVig for unders on Luke Cornett, and people were trying to bet unders on Luke Cornett and overs on Kristaps Porzingis. There was a lot of money being placed on those positions.
Okay. Something to think about there in terms of a little bit of an ROI boost here. Do you have any interesting Al Horford, Drew Holiday, Derek White thoughts? I don't. They're filler. They're fine. I like all 3 of them in certain situations. I don't think that any of them look like exceptional DFS plays, but they're going to be out there. They're just not fun guys to talk about.
I'm slightly underweight to all 3. Like, not like a massive fee, but
Same.
it's like Drew Holiday is 20% owned. I have 13% of him. Al Horford is 20% owned. I have 12% of him. So that's where I'm at. I'm like a few percentage points underweight to all 3 of those guys. I just kind of prefer getting some other spots. Maybe that'll change as we get an ownership update. But like as of right now, just slightly underweight to all of them.
I'm going to bounce over to FanDuel so people can see the ownership here. It's about 50% on Tatum, about 50% on Jaylen Brown. These guys are much more owned on the FanDuel side outside of the Porzingis price tag being dramatically different. 30% to Holiday, 40 more to White. Even Horford's up at 27. So you are going to be getting to Boston quite a bit more on the FanDuel end. Although I'm not sure I love the ownership on Derek White there at 40. That strikes me as a hair high on the FanDuel end. But that gap between Jaylen Brown is still super interesting. The positionality for Jaylen Brown at 7,600 on FanDuel is really interesting. He probably looks even better on FanDuel compared to Tatum than he does on DraftKings. But if you're getting anywhere on the Boston side for FanDuel, you're coin flipping the Brown Tatum combo for right now, at least in ownership, or taking them both if you want.
Yeah. So for me over on FanDuel, a lot of it looks pretty similar. I've got more of Jaylen Brown than I've got of Jason Tatum. So that's the status quo for me. And then also I've got some of Derek White. I've got some of Drew Holiday. I'm actually fairly underweight to the field on Derek White just because, like you said, he's so popular there. So I've got 20% of Derek White over on FanDuel, but yeah, he's 40% on. So I guess I'm a fair amount underweight to the field to him there. But Drew Holiday, Al Horford, once again, same sort of situation where I'm a few percentage points underweight to those other guys.
Want to talk about the Knicks?
Let's talk about the Knicks.
All righty. Guys, hit that like button, by the way. That would be incredibly helpful. We're going to be sticking around long after this So we'll be here on YouTube until lock. We're already on Playback right now, playback.tv/Stokastic. We're sharing draft coverage right now, or lottery coverage, I guess. Lottery coming up at 7 o'clock. So we'll be able to talk about that if it goes off while we're on this show. If it's transitioning to the lottery while we're going to Playback, you'll be able to catch that before the game starts. But if you want to go there, it's playback.tv/Stokastic. You could subscribe to Playback, watch the games on our Playback channel for the rest of the postseason along with us. And you can get yourself a little bit of a discount on a single sport package if you're interested in that after you sign up. Maybe you already have it. You can still get a little bit of a discount, I'm guessing, right?
Also, want to shout out a pretty good reason. You might want to check out some of the data and sims we have here. We got a super chat from Ryan Schindler. Said, I just want to show my appreciation for the tools. Took down the big $5 PGA contest for $50K. Thanks for everything. It is truly life-changing for me. Absolutely love to see that, Ryan. Yeah, that's one of my favorite contests to play each week. I'll be playing the $5 for the PGA Championship this week as well. It's a $500,000 contest, $100,000 at first. The PGA prize pools, they're massive. And that is something that I found a lot of success with using our Sims tool. So if you want to sign up for PGA or any of the other sports that we have here, link down below in the YouTube description box. Sign up for any of those packages.
Knicks, bing bong. We're here. Are they going to be able to generate a good offensive shot? Probably not. Are we going to be rostering the Knicks? Unfortunately, yes. 40% ownership coming into Brunson, Hart, and Towns. 20-25 on Anunoby and Bridges. 15 on Robinson. 8 on Miles McBride. I am matching or slightly over the field on the 3 most owned guys from the Knicks. I'm okay with that for Towns and okay with that for Hart. It's another day where I don't want Jalen Brunson and I'm getting him. But what do you like the most here from the Knicks? Game 4, drop game 3. Do they recover? Do they not recover? Do you like the Knicks here? What do you want to get? How do you see this one going?
So one big talking point here has to also be is whatever the hell is going on with Karl-Anthony Towns. So he had his hand pretty taped up prior to last game, and he got hit a few times, and he was clearly in an immense amount of pain. And you never know when you're trying to lip read somebody, but there's a clip that went viral where it pretty clearly seems to be Karl-Anthony Towns turning to his dad in the crowd and telling him that he broke it and holding his hand while he said it. So whether it's his hand or his finger, he's dealing with some sort of injury here. We don't know the extent of it, but there's something wrong with him. Now, he's only $7,500, and credit to him, he is toughing it out and he's playing through it. And, you know, from a fantasy standpoint, he's kind of been up and down throughout the postseason. But it's $7,500. And once again, getting back to before where I was saying that my lineups are pretty balanced. I'm not spending up to the top guys. Cat clearly offers a lot of upside at $7,500. It's just going to be a matter of how does his hand feel? Is it going to impact his shots, his ability to pull down rebounds? But I think that he's somebody who's a pretty strong option at 7,500. He's my favorite guy to be rostering from the Knicks as of now.
Me too. Price tag is pretty tough to ignore. I'm just going to hope that Tibbs is in the locker room like Coach Bud Kilmer, just jamming needles into his hand so it goes numb and he can keep playing. We just have to hope that like Jalen Brunson doesn't come in there being like, only way we're going back out there is without you. Because that's not going to be helpful at all. But I can't even look, injury, no injury, 7,500 for Towns just looks like a really nice price tag. I'm terrified that he's not going to shoot and he's not the Karl-Anthony Towns I need him to be, but at 7,500, I might not even need him to be the Karl-Anthony Towns he normally is because that price tag is just way lower than his talent level.
Yeah, I also bet him earlier today, plus 175 to hit 2+3s. Pretty wide number for a guy who that's like what he averaged during the regular season. Also, the injury, it is not to his shooting hand, it's to his offhand. It doesn't mean it doesn't impact him. Like we've seen with Michael Porter Jr., he's got an injury to his non-shooting shoulder, and sometimes he looks fine, like 2 games ago. Other times he struggles to move his arm, and it impacts his ability to play. Like there was a play yesterday where Michael Porter Jr. was open under the basket for a layup, ball was passed to him, and he just couldn't move his arm to catch the pass. So you just don't know with some of these injuries. Some days they can get an injection and then they just play like normal, and it's a complete non-issue. And Cat still, like, he played relatively okay considering the circumstances in the injury last game.
How do you want to coin flip the wings? Bridges 25% owned, Hart 35, OG 20. Hasn't been a great OG series offensively so far. Josh Hart's just he's going to work his ass off for as long as he's out there hitting every single statistical category. And then Mikal Bridges is going to be a total wild card. What do you want to do with these dudes?
Yeah. So one thing that I'm really interested in is, so I've given Tibbs a lot of shit about this over the last few years. He's made a change this postseason. He's not running his guys into the ground to play 48 minutes every single game.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking, is it going to be a time where maybe he does it? If he was going to 2-1 at home against the Celtics, I kind of think this is the spot where maybe Tibbs goes, let's go back to Josh Hart playing 46 minutes. You get 44 minutes out of Mikal Bridges. So I already have the most of Josh Hart of all the wings. I'm kind of inclined to give all of them an ROI boost though, and just hope we get the game where Tibbs goes, fuck it. Old Tibbs, we're running everybody into the ground today. I think that's on the table.
I do too. This strikes me as the game where if it's going to happen, it's happening here. I completely agree with what you just said. Because now we're here. Because in the last game, they were never really in a position to do it. It just wasn't ever going to happen in that one. They were dead at halftime and they stayed dead this time instead of the first two games. First two games, they were able to resuscitate themselves, not so much. If they're not dead at halftime, like they have been in the first three games, then I think we're going to get 40 plus out of pretty much everybody in that starting lineup, barring any foul trouble. I'm with now's the time. This is where you start to see it ramp up. And that's no different than any other series, really. You don't see it as much in the beginning and it starts to grow and grow and grow. And if it's ever going to grow, it's going to grow for Tibbs today. So I'm with you. That does make me a little nervous about what I end up getting here for the Knicks, because if I already have Brunson, Hart, and Towns, I don't want to bump them too. And then all of a sudden I'm hitching my wagon to a team I don't think's going to win. And then I'm dead in my mind, at least. Maybe that's the way to win money. Do the opposite of what my brain thinks.
There's another part of this too. I have a ton of exposure to Kuminga. I want to get off some of it just because we've seen how the Warriors rotations go in the playoffs. If Kuminga's playing well, he's going to get extended minutes. There's no guarantees Kuminga even plays 20 minutes today. There's a scenario where Kuminga misses some shots, and he was completely out of the rotation 2 weeks ago. So there's a scenario here where Kuminga gets off to a slow start, and it's just somebody else who's playing on the wing today. And it could be anybody for the Golden State Warriors. Like whoever's Gui Santos could be playing well off the bench, and he just randomly becomes the guy for Golden State today. Bridges and Anunoby are only marginally more expensive than Kuminga. They're a fraction of the price, a fraction of the ownership. I kind of feel like that's the move I want to make. I want to lower some of my exposure to Kuminga and give it to Hart, Bridges, and Anunoby.
I completely agree with you in everything you're saying. I just don't want those guys personally, but from a DFS perspective, completely agree with you. And I will end up with a bit more Bridges and a bit more of Anunoby. You guys can see on the screen right now that I'm a little bit under on those guys. How do you want to handle the Mitchell Robinson experience? You ready to sweat some missed free throws?
So I have here's what I'm going to do with Mitchell Robinson. He's one of these guys where I'm just going to align myself with the field. He's projected for 16% ownership. I'll take 16% of Mitchell Robinson. He's a good fantasy producer. Horrific free throw shooter. The Celtics have been exploiting this. And there are times where he's playing well and the Celtics just foul him and Tibbs has to take him off the court. It's such a weird guy to be rostering because his success is so little to do with what he's doing on the court to an extent, just because if he's getting fouled and he just isn't making those free throws, which by the way, it's not just he's missing free throws. He's like airballing every other free throw he takes as well, like horrifically. So he's projected for 16% ownership. I'll just align myself with the field. And if he does well, cool. If he doesn't, also cool. I have no strong feelings about Mitchell Robinson.
Same. I don't know what to do. His free throws are so bad that it's insane. Yeah. It's like watching all of these in between timeout guys play the tic-tac-toe game while we're on playback. Like, he's not even close. It's like they found a guy that can't do it. I can't imagine you have any like real talking interest in McBride or Payne.
Let's see. Do I have like any of them? I don't. Here's the other part too, is what I was saying before, where it's just my intuition is that we see Tibbs play these guys bigger minutes. That directly comes at the expense of guys like Cam Payne and Miles McBride. They tried Precious Achiuwa last game. That was partially due to foul trouble and also Cat getting banged up. I don't really think that's going to be the case again. Mitchell Robinson is the only real talking point off the bench for New York, and these other guys, I kind of think they're going to get pinched.
I think we're on the same page. Do you have anything else here for the Knicks? Any hot takes, any reads here that you think we need to let the people know about?
No real hot takes. Just I am right now going through the process of boosting Anunoby and Bridges so that I could get more exposure to them and lower my exposure to Kuminga a little bit.
All righty. Well, you guys like the Portfolio EV tool? Are you familiar with the Portfolio EV tool? You guys can get a trial, 7 days. Link in the description. Costs you absolutely nothing. You can take a market-based approach to beating the books, get expected value, expected win rates, mass betting, parlay builders, odds boost calculators, build out your own portfolio, get notifications on your phone for that portfolio. Click that notification immediately. Just go and place that bet. It's very simple. Greg ran a bankroll challenge through the NBA season. It might be the best piece of betting content I've seen in the past couple of years because it showed you exactly what you can get out of OddsShopper and the Portfolio EV tool as someone coming in with a low bankroll. He started with $100, well north of $1,000 by the end of the regular season. Greg, where do you stand right now?
Like 1,650 for the bankroll challenge, and then also here my betting results for all of the bets that I placed last week. I'll throw them up on screen right now. I know it kind of screws with the overlay here, but I just uploaded it here. But yeah, just using some of the Portfolio EV tools and just using the mass entry tool to place a lot of those bets. $2,600 in a week. Also tracked by Juice Reel. That's a new app that I've been playing around with. It's pretty fun to use Juice Reel. So also exciting for me is I get to like rebuild my bet history because they only take the last, at least when you start, it's just the way that the CSVs work for the site. They only pull in a certain number of bets. So I also kind of find it fun that like I'm starting from scratch-ish on Juice Reel. So I get to build up my profits over time on Juice Reel because it's going to be recording everything going forward. But yeah, I've had some good success with the tools and free for your first 7 days if you guys want to try it out.
We move to the late night hammer. Minnesota Timberwolves 5-point favorites at Golden State. 200 total for this one. 30% ownership for Ant, Randle, Reed. 25 for DiVincenzo. 10 to 20, Conley, McDaniels, Gobert, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Obviously, we know they don't do anything weird with their rotation. So let's start talking about the top end here. 9,500 for Ant, point guard, shooting guard eligible. Similar-ish ownership to Jason Tatum right now. Tatum a little bit more than that, but ultimately these are the two pay-ups. Is it Ant? Is it Tatum? Is it both? What are you doing with Ant today?
Yeah, so I have very minimal amount of exposure to Edwards, which obviously a little bit scary, but I only have around 10% of him at the moment. I've got, especially now as I made some alterations to my lineups, I'm so much more heavily concentrated on the first game of the slate than the later game, which without Steph Curry, these games are being played at a really slow pace, Warriors and Timberwolves. So that is one aspect of it that makes me feel, okay. Like I can't get away from Jimmy Butler. He's my most rostered player by a lot for this slate, but I'm having a hard time getting to Ant here, Josh. Can't say I'm totally comfortable with it. He also got hurt last game. He injured his ankle and it looked pretty bad. Yeah. And I was surprised he was able to come back in. He didn't look great when he came back. So that's something that could be lingering. This is kind of a talking point with a lot of players. I don't know how many guys are 100% at this point in the season. It's like seemingly almost none of them are for the Cleveland Cavaliers. You got no Steph Curry in the late game. You got Anthony Edwards playing at less than 100%. But I am concerned about Edwards' ankle injury.
I'm not really worried about it. I mean, it's definitely there. I'm going to assume it's fine until I see that it's not, for today at least. But it's not leading me to get to Ant. I wish that it was. I don't like being as light as I am, especially in a game that, at least for me in my data, has a slightly better pace environment. A couple extra possessions in this one, even if the total is a little bit lower. The Golden State defense is just weird right now for mapping that one out. But it seems like I'm going to be getting to more Tatum and less of Edwards. I thought that was going to result in me getting a bit more of Julius Randle, sort of the Jaylen Brown of this team at that point. How are you feeling about Randle here then? Because we have this dueling two-man combo between both of these teams, and I find the push-pull pretty interesting.
Yeah, so for Randle, not a real stand with me. I'm about even with the field. We've got him projected for 31% ownership. I'm just under 30%. So right around in line with the field. Randall's had an excellent series, and he's had an excellent series because nobody's saying he sucks online. Like there are certain players that NBA Twitter just kind of hates that they won't give them credit if they play well, but they'll just stop talking about them. They'll pretend they don't exist. There's nobody mentions Julius Randle at all. Throughout the entire regular season, it was how bad is Julius Randle? Julius Randle, the Timberwolves need to bench him. The Timberwolves need to trade him. They need to do this, that, and the other. Now he's playing really well, and there's just no mention of Julius Randle at all. One other thing, too, that has me liking Julius Randle, at least to some extent for this slate, is if I am underweight to the field on Anthony Edwards, it kind of makes sense that I would be playing some of Julius Randle. So, relative to ownership, not a big stand, but I do prefer him to Ant.
So do I. But I'm going to push back on one thing. There was one person talking about Julius Randle since the start of the season, and he's sitting on this show with you. The person that said that they didn't lose the trade from the jump, and the person that was right from the jump. Right here. Never sold the Julius Randle stock. Been saying it from the jump. So I'm going to take my flowers right now.
Yeah, I think so. Randle's a two-time All-NBA player, right? Like he's in 3 All-Star games or something like that. So clearly somebody who, and also like all the advanced metrics rate him out as being a pretty good player. I still think Cat is better than him, but Randle's solid. He's a very good he's like a low-end All-Star caliber player.
Yeah, like I guess I should be more it's not that I liked Randle, but I liked that trade from Minnesota because they got 2 rotation pieces, and I thought that was pretty helpful. I was a big Dante DiVincenzo guy. The fact that he sucked for the first 2.5 months was really the true ass part of this Minnesota team. And it turns out that he's now my second most exposed player today. How are you feeling about Dante DiVincenzo? I'm kind of asking for myself here.
Yeah, he's a reasonable value option. I don't love him from a projection standpoint, but it's so hard to find cheap guys to like on this slate. And then once again, getting back to if Anthony Edwards, I don't think he's going to be limited today in terms of like playing time, but I think he could be slightly limited physically. And then you get into one of these situations where if the Warriors need, or if the Timberwolves need extra offense against the Warriors, DiVincenzo is just somebody who ends up playing in some of those scenarios over Mike Conley, or they go small and Gobert comes off the court. So as far as value options go, it's hard to find guys that I prefer priced around 4K to Dante DiVincenzo. It's one of the reasons also, though, I'm not paying up a ton for Edwards, not paying up a ton for Jason Tatum today. It's because I struggle to find some of those cheaper guys I like. DiVincenzo is one of the better ones, but there just aren't very many guys that you can feel any decently about clicking their name.
Yeah, it's the same situation here for Naz Reid for me too, where 4,600 power forward center, like that's sort of the value range I'm getting to more, this lower mid-tier 4K range. So I'm getting Reid and DiVincenzo off the bench, which is leading me to think like, well, hopefully these guys are just shooting the shit out of the ball because that's the path for Reid and DiVincenzo. Every shot they're taking is just going in, but I like their value. They're not terrible per minute guys. Both guys have an MPE, so the flexibility is there if I need to move anything around in the second game. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is just one of those guys where like I never have him, and I'm just always waiting for him to be like to get that 29-minute game out of nowhere and destroy me. I don't feel like I ever get that dude right. I don't really have him here today. 3,500 guard forward eligibility. There's nothing to stop him from just falling into extra minutes from one random guy, but it's just not a guy I'm getting to today.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense to me. I don't have anything different to push back on from that.
Yeah, I've got the FanDuel ownership pulled up for these guys right now. We pushed projections at 705. I'm guessing we just hit. Yeah, ownership just hit as well. I'm going to grab the updated projections and ownership. So we see it on the screen. I can't imagine it moved all that much at this point. We didn't really have any changes. But Ant at 50% ownership on FanDuel, Randle at 40, and then Conley, McDaniels, Gobert, Reed, and DiVincenzo all in the mid-20s. Good luck sifting through that one, Minnesota fans. I forgot to ask you this before. Who wins, Boston or the Knicks?
Boston. If I had to, well, actually the spread's dropped a little bit. I was going to say if I had to pick a team relative to the spread, earlier in the day, the Knicks were 6.5. Now the line's moved to 5.5. I didn't hate the Knicks at 6.5. I didn't place a bet on that. I do have a bet on the spread for the later game. Well, that one's moved as well. So, well, either way, 5.5. I'll say this. I think the game's going to be competitive, which was not the case the other day.
Okay. Well, let's close it out with the team that we need to talk about the most, the Golden State Warriors. And let's just start with the easy part here today. 8,500 power forward eligible Jimmy Butler on DraftKings is 56% owned. $9,300 small forward power forward eligible Jimmy Butler is 60% owned on FanDuel. It's the highest owned guy today. I think he's pretty clearly the top play of the day. I have 87% of him on my last run, and I don't see where I would go differently here. I think this one's pretty clear. Not a guy I want to get away from.
Yep, I've got him in 90% of my lineups. He's my most rostered player on the slate by far. So Jimmy Butler, I think there's such a high floor with Jimmy Butler. By the way, also, he's clearly hurt as well. He's still got that asshole injury that he's dealing with from when he fell on his bum, was like 2 weeks ago now. There are times you could see him laboring a little bit, although last game was the healthiest he's looked since the injury. Had an outstandingly good game. And it's just at a point, too, the Warriors very clearly need him to play big minutes. He is likely playing 40-plus minutes again today. As far as the expensive guys go, he's my favorite by a mile tonight.
Yeah. Can you imagine how tough this series would be for Dwight Howard if he took that kind of fall?
Might split in half.
No. Or he'd be well-seasoned. Like guys trying to work their shins in MMA, maybe it wouldn't matter as much. I don't know.
Just ask people.
Anyway.
He would ask people to undercut him while he's going up for dunks.
Yeah. Hey, when I jump, check my legs out.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can feel. All right, you want to talk about the hardest part of today? Jonathan Kuminga, power forward only, 5,200 on DraftKings, 5,100 on FanDuel, small forward, power forward eligible, 40 to 50% owned across both sites. Right now, the implication is that we're assuming he is starting today, which would make some sense based on the performance from last game. Golden State down 2-1. Like, you make that switch. Look, basically, Steve Kerr's just taking whatever good happened the previous game, jamming that guy into the starting lineup and figuring it out the next day. I am absolutely terrified of this dude because all outcomes are on the table.
Yeah, so I've got all my stuff final. Like, unless there's anything crazy that happens, we just got the Celtics starting lineup. Porzingis isn't starting. If he was starting, that would have really, really significantly changed stuff for me. But because I thought that was on the table, but not the case. Porzingis is still coming off the bench. But I have a pretty underweight stance to Jonathan Kuminga, and it's not because I think he should project poorly. It's not because I think he can't have a good game. It's because the field is owning him as if there is no chance of him having a bad game. Like, people are just like, 2 good games in a row. Oh, like Steve Kerr loves this guy. There's no chance he's a bad game now. We have seen so frequently over the course of this playoffs, a chalk piece for the Golden State Warriors completely busts. And I'm not saying it is going to happen with Kuminga. I think it is so much more live to happen than his nearly 50% ownership suggests. He's my favorite guy to get underweight to the field to. It could very easily ruin the slate for me, just because if he keeps playing like he did the last couple of games, he's probably going to score like 40 fantasy points and be really good and be necessary for the winning lineup. But I think he's like 50-50 to even play 20-plus minutes today.
So do I. Although I do think that it's a more unique situation in that they're running out of options for creation. So I think his leash is like a little bit longer than it normally would. To me, it all comes down to defense for Kuminga. I don't think Kerr's going to care if the offense isn't working unless he's being very solo about it. If he has lapses in judgment defensively, That's where he's going to die here, because there is no, like, that's where everyone will be frustrated. Missed shots are going to happen. And if they're happening in the flow of the offense, it'll never matter. He could be 0 for 10, and I don't think it'll matter at all. He gets beat backdoor because he's asleep and then misses a switch. He's going to be sitting with Chris Boucher at the end of the Warriors bench. That said, it could also be the opposite. He could play 40 minutes today because they have nothing else. I don't want any sort of stand on Kuminga. If I have anything, I'd like to be lighter and just let the chips fall as they may. I don't want to have a lot because I'm terrified of this guy. And there are so many other options to get to from Golden State that could just as easily step into these minutes and become what I need. And I could have the guys from Boston, New York, Minnesota that I know are just going to be out there.
It's so hard to project the Golden State Warriors because even when you're using something like simulations where there's a range of outcomes, the one thing you have to project players for is a set amount of minutes. And the minutes are so wildly variant for this Golden State Warriors team. Kuminga could legitimately play anywhere from 16 to 40 minutes today. Like all of it is on the table. So it's so hard to know what to do with them. I don't think it's unreasonable to say you're aligning yourself with the field. But what I'm going to be doing for today is I'm getting myself well underway to the field on Jonathan Kuminga. I'll hope that Bridges or Anunoby end up outscoring him for half the ownership.
We're about to find out what I'm going to be getting here. Every ownership number that I have on the screen right now is the updated information that is at Stokastic.com right now. DraftKings and FanDuel. I hop back over to FanDuel so you guys can see it. 60% ownership to Butler, 50 to Kuminga, 40 for Pods on FanDuel, 30 for Hield and Draymond, 20 for Gary Payton off the bench. Very light on Looney and Trace Jackson Davis. Is there, like, we obviously just had the Kuminga discussion. Is there a guy you want to target today? If you're going to be light on Kuminga, like, where do you see that benefit taking you?
Yeah, so the field's already getting there, but I feel better about Buddy Hield than Kuminga for a couple of reasons. One being the positionality, another one being the price point, and then also that Buddy Hield has really shot the ball well in the postseason. We have such a long track record of Buddy Hield as being a good shooter that, to me, he's one guy that, with the Warriors being without Steph Curry, I feel like they really need to give Buddy Hield those minutes to space the court, because who else is going to be able to shoot for this team, especially when you consider that, you know, Jimmy Butler, I know he's a better shooter now than he used to be, but he's still not like a knockdown three-point shooter or high volume three-point shooter. Draymond Green, he's made shots at times. He's not going to be that guy. And then also for Jonathan Kuminga, as much as he is somebody who's able to score at times, he's also not a prolific shooter by any stretch of the imagination. He's a 30% three-point shooter this year, averaging 3.2 threes per game. His career high for three-point shooting is, you go back to his sophomore year, he shot 37%, but only took 2 threes per game. It's like, I feel like they really, really need Buddy Hield on the court, whether he's making his shots or not. They just need him for the floor spacing. If you're not playing him, then I just think everything collapses for the Golden State Warriors offense, taking on a really tough Minnesota Timberwolves defense. So I feel good about Buddy Hield. The other one as well, who I think is a reasonable pivot off of Kuminga, even if they don't play the exact same position, Gary Payton's good. He's a really good NBA player. And if you get a scenario where Gary Payton knocks down a couple of corner threes, he could be in the closing lineup instead of Kuminga, and they just go a little bit smaller. So you got a guy in Gary Payton who is, let's see, what is his ownership?
20 something?
Yeah, right around 20%
22.
ownership, but also only $3K or $3,200. If you're looking to punt today, he's the most reasonable punt to me, who's right around 3K, who actually could see extended minutes.
No disagreement. Right around the field there on Peyton. I see the path where he steps in. I really thought you were going to tell me that today is the Quentin Post day, and we've been waiting for it for a couple games.
No. Fuck that guy. That's not happening. When he's been on the court, he has done nothing to justify playing time. He has sucked the last couple of games.
He has. I just finished my sim. I'm going to see what I've got going on right now. This just feels like the post game. Like, I'm clearly not going to have him. It's going to end up, if it happens, it's going to be the Trace Jackson Davis way. But like, now that no one has him, today's the day he plays like 22 minutes off the bench and makes 6 threes, right? That's the ultimate
thing is
Warriors
I
move
feel like
today.
he's played so poorly that he's kind of exhausted his chances. You never know.
Like
you never know.
you should be right. I think that should be the right thought process. I trust nothing, but that sounds like it should be correct. What about Looney? Like, where does he rank to you in like the Mitchell Robinson, Luke Cornett type dudes today?
I know they gave Looney some extra run last game, but we talked about this game one also. I just don't think it's a Looney series. It's not like I get that like his size matches up with like Rudy Gobert, but it's not like you have to do anything to match up with Rudy Gobert because absence of if you're the Lakers and you have like Luka and Dorian Finney-Smith guarding him, he's not that much of a threat on offense. So I don't really think teams have to play to try to match up with Rudy Gobert on the defensive side. So I think the main priority for the Warriors is try to get offense and shot creation on the court, and that's just not what Looney brings to the table. If they advance past what happened,
the Mavs jumped into the top 4. It's happening right now.
Ooh, so who fell out?
It's hard to tell right now for me because I didn't know it was starting. Surely we know. 14 Spurs, 13 Hawks, 12 Bulls, Blazers, Rockets, Raptors, Nets, Pelicans.
So this is the Nets having, I'm just looking over here. So the Nets having the 8th overall pick, that kind of hurts some of their potential ammo for.
Oh my God, the Wizards are at 6.
Good. Fuck that team too. They stink. I want nothing but bad to happen to that
team. So the
Wizards
fell 4 spots. Sixers jumped, Mavs jumped.
Of the teams who are available, 4. These are all really interesting potential top picks.
All right. Well, obviously that is a dream scenario for Philadelphia. They keep their pick. So whether it's flag or not, they don't give a fuck. They got to keep their pick. That is.
Well, I think they care a little bit if it's flag.
Right. But like they just wanted this scenario more than anything.
Yeah, I got you.
Otherwise, like that is a massive asset for Philadelphia right now. And we don't even know what it's going to be yet. I saw people talking in chat that it was happening, and I didn't know if they were serious or not. I thought people were just saying like they wanted the Mavs to jump up to 4. Do we have anything else to say for Golden State? Because now I'm trapped in a situation where I don't give a shit about the slate.
No, I'm just looking through my exposure, see if there's anything final that I want to change. I did run one more sim. I've got 20% of Kuminga is what my exposure is at on him. And I'm not going to change that regardless. Like, I don't even think whether he starts or comes off the bench makes that big of a difference because we've seen the starting lineup for the Warriors. Like, what the hell does it matter? Quentin Post starts, he plays 3 minutes. We've seen Trace Jackson-Davis start, play shitty, barely get any minutes. Here's what Steve Kerr is going to do, which I don't think is unreasonable. They are massively shorthanded. This team is banged up. He is going to give everybody a chance to play, and whoever plays the best is going to earn themselves the extended minutes. Kuminga is just because he's playing well, and I think he brings something to the table that they don't really have from other players. Admittedly, I think he's one of the most likely guys to get those extended minutes of guys who don't normally get those extended minutes. But I'm going to stick with 20%. Just hope he isn't the guy today. And if he is, then hopefully one of the 20% of lineups I have is the lineup.
I have 37 of Kuminga right now, and that's where I'm going to end up being. Oh man, I'm so pumped to see who gets this pick now. It's going to be fun.
All right, I'm going to upload these lineups. I'm done.
Well, you do that while I do this. Nuke of the night. We are here. And it's time to find out who is your favorite play of the day. Who nukes it, Greg? Who you got?
All right. So, boy, there's a couple of guys that I'm stuck in between here. All right. So, boy, there's 3 guys, the 4 guys actually that are on the tip of my tongue as potential guys to give out. But didn't talk a ton about him when we were going over the Minnesota Timberwolves. I know you had mentioned him, but we didn't go into too great of detail with him. Naz Reid at $4,600. There are so few value options that are worthwhile on this slate. And he's one of the ones with the higher upside. I think the two highest upside guys in the 4K range are Buddy Hield and Naz Reid. And I kind of think they have comparable ceilings, Buddy Hield being a little bit safer. But Naz Reid is only 26% owned, and he's somebody I want to be well overweight to the field too. Also, I think it stands to reason that if Naz Reid is playing really well, maybe Minnesota goes bigger, and maybe that leaves Kuminga without somebody to match up with, and Kuminga has to come off the court or something like that. So either way, I'm going to go with Naz Reid. He's going to be the guy for me. I was contemplating Naz Reid versus OG Anunoby versus Mikal Bridges. These are all guys who I'm overweight to as forwards.
You mentioned Buddy Hield in that conversation. He is the guy that I am third most over the field on. I'm not going to take Jimmy Butler. He's the guy that I'm second most over the field on, and he's already the most popular guy. So I'm going to go to the guy that I've been riding and dying for since the trade went down. Julius Randle is in 59% of my stuff, projected for 31% ownership. I am over the field more on Julius Randle than any other player today. Julius Randle is your nuke of the night.
So two teams left. It's the Spurs and 76ers, it looks like, to get the first overall pick, if I saw that correctly.
Really?
I thought so.
Am
I wrong?
I haven't seen anything on Twitter yet.
Okay. Maybe I saw that wrong.
All right, let's hit these super chats. Darren Unger, FanDuel GPP, Hart and Cat, or Tatum and Horford? Again, I will recommend going to the player compare tool for any and all 1v1s and 2v2s.
Hart and Cat for me.
And then Michael Wallace, Pritchard and Porzingis, or Dante and Horford. That's Pritchard and Porzingis.
Well, I'm a little confused because it says last man in, but there's 4 people here. But either way, I'm going to
go asking last man into the Lakers roster, and it has nothing to do with DFS.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know who the last man in for the Lakers roster is going to be. Can you put the DFS related question up again though, just so I could see? Because I was thrown off by DiVincenzo and Horford.
Just like the Pritchard Porzingis combo for me is the one that can get you to the top. If I pick Dante and Horford, I'm just naming 2 guys that play today. Oh, is it down to San Antonio and Mavs? Did the Mavs just win the lottery?
I think they did.
Yep. Everybody.
Mavs win the all right, Mavs are saved.
Disgusting.
Mavs are saved.
Disgusting. This is the worst moment of the NBA. So gross. They do not deserve this in any way, shape, or form. Awful. Boycott everything. Dude, could you imagine if they, didn't do the trade?
They knew what they were doing all along. You know what's funny is this happens. It doesn't matter who gets the first overall pick. There's some angle where people think it's rigged because that team got the pick. If the Mavericks got the pick, people are going to say rigged to save them. If the Spurs got the pick, people would say rigged to make the Wemby super team. If the 76ers got the pick, it'd be like, hey, like they're trying to build Philly back up. There really isn't a team that could have gotten the first overall pick where the people wouldn't have made an argument for it being rigged.
Do you know why the Mavs just won this? For real. They had a coin flip with the Bulls. If that coin flip goes the other way, the Bulls just won the lottery.
Well, the Bulls don't deserve it either.
No, that would have been terrible.
It's gonna be a fun Mavs team. I could get on board for that.
It's gonna be. Is it?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be a fun Mavs
yeah.
team?
Anthony Davis, Cooper Flag, and Kyrie Irving's a fun team. Whenever Kyrie is back.
26-27 season. Oh God, they don't deserve any bit of this. All right, who are your biggest fades before we get out of here? Because I have very little Jaylen Brown.
Okay.
Very little Mikal.
Yeah, my two big fades are Ant and Kuminga. Yeah, I do have 20% of Kuminga, but that's so far underweight to what his ownership is.
And just for everybody that's going to keep saying it, the Mavs are not trading the pick. No one would ever trade it.
So you say.
Don't even bother thinking about it.
So you say.
Well, okay, yeah. Let me be clear here. Nico Harrison's a moron. So who knows?
I am upset we aren't going to get to see Wemby and Flag would have been so fun, but
agreed. I liked it for Houston too, just because it would have been a really wild stretch of Houston OKC for a bit. But yeah, the NBA is fantastic. All right, what do we got left? Anything here? We got 2.5 minutes to go before we head over to Playback. You guys are definitely going to join us on Playback, playback.tv/Stokastic. Greg and I will talk about the lottery, how we think this impacts the rest of these teams, and we'll be talking about the Knicks-Celtics game. But what do we got left here, Greg? What are we missing?
Let me just check Discord to see if there was any questions that came in from any of our subs over the course of the show. And we've got a couple of here. Coach DFS wants to know must plays for single entry. So for me, that would be Jimmy Butler for sure. Naz Reid is another one. Buddy Hield. Those are the three that I'd say are like guys that if I was building one lineup, I couldn't go without. Buddy Hield, Jimmy Butler, and Naz Reid. And then also Bryce asked Naz Reid or Al Horford. I'll speak for you on this. I assume the answer is Naz Reid.
That would be correct.
Anybody else you consider? If you were building one lineup, you'd be like, I have to have this guy in that one lineup. Butler's the one.
I mean, Butler and Randle would be Butler, Randle, and Hield are the three highest owned guys I have. And I have like 15% more of those guys than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing I'll hit on. Right now we're projecting 53% of the ownership on DraftKings to go to the late game, 47% to the early. I have 67% of Minnesota Golden State.
My lineups are interesting because my most rostered players are from Golden State, Minnesota, but then also some of the players I'm most underweight to the field too. We got one last super chat here from Tiptonius. Brunson and Gary Payton or White and Horford. Brunson and Gary Payton. Why does every question have Al Horford in it today? Not that there's anything wrong with Al Horford. He's like a nondescript guy to be in every single 2v2 question, though.
I guess he must just be like the easiest possible fit in any lineup, and you don't notice it. I wonder if that's a sign that his ownership will be higher.
I mean, we've got a sample size of like 5 questions, so probably not. But yeah, you never know.
If you're Cooper Flag, are you excited?
Yeah.
Do you think he wanted to go there? Because that has to be most people's least favorite place to go after they just saw what they did, right?
So considering some of the other, I would rather be in. So like obviously considering the overall stink around the Mavericks, it wouldn't be my preferred situation, but I'd prefer to landing in like Washington or Charlotte, which were some of the other likely outcomes. Like I would definitely not want to be on Washington.
Trevor Cheek says, why would he care? He probably doesn't want to get treated like Luka Doncic just did. It's really not fun I don't think Luka was stoked to uproot his life in a place where he thought he was going to be staying forever.
Bando asked Pritchard, DiVincenzo for me.
Want to go talk about all this stuff on Playback?
Yeah, guys, come check us out over on Playback. I'm sure Josh is about to drop the link into the YouTube chat. So we are going to be over in Playback watching Knicks Celtics. We'll talk a little bit about the NBA draft lottery. I don't know about you. I don't know who else is in the draft other than Cooper Flag. I don't know if there are other marquee prospects, but
a lot.
Spurs are getting somebody good to pair with Wemby and to pair with Castle. Who knows? Maybe this is more ammunition for a Giannis trade. Who knows? We'll talk about it over on Playback. See you guys over there.
Adios, everybody. Knicks, Celtics, game 4. Let's do it.